I was on my way to tell my son the news. $4.8 million in 3 properties. I walked toward the stairs, ready to share everything with him. Then I heard him laugh into his phone from the kitchen below. If the old man dies soon, I'll take everything anyway. I froze at the top of the landing. My hand gripped the railing so hard my knuckles turned white. The room spun. My heart felt like it had been ripped from my chest and thrown against the wall. I quietly turned back to my room, closed the door, and sat in the dark. The silence in my bedroom felt suffocating. I sat on the edge of my bed, still wearing my jacket, my car keys digging into my palm. I kept replaying those words. If the old man dies soon, the old man. That's what my son called me. Not Dad, not my father, the old man. I'm 67 years old. My name is Bill Harrison, and until that moment, I thought I knew my son. I thought Marcus and I had something real, something solid. But sitting there in the darkness, I realized I'd been living in a fantasy. Let me back up. I'm a retired high school teacher. Taught American history for 38 years at Lincoln High School right here in Columbus, Ohio. My wife, Sarah, died 8 years ago from ovarian cancer. It was brutal, watching her fade away over 18 months. Marcus was 24 then, fresh out of college. I thought losing his mother would bring us closer. In some ways it did, or so I believed. After Sarah passed, I raised Marcus the rest of the way into adulthood alone, paid off his student loans, helped him get his first apartment. When he got married to a woman named Diane, I paid for half the wedding. When that marriage fell apart 3 years later, I helped cover his divorce attorney fees. When he lost his job as a sales associate at a furniture company last year, I told him he could move back home, rent-free, no timeline. Just get back on your feet, son. He'd been living with me for 14 months. He's 32 now, still unemployed, still in my house, but I didn't mind. I'm his father. That's what fathers do. Lately, Marcus had been different, more attentive. He'd ask how I was feeling, whether I'd taken my blood pressure medication, if I'd thought about updating my will. He'd mention articles he'd read about estate planning, about making sure everything was in order. I thought he was finally growing up, finally thinking about family and responsibility in the future. What a fool I was. The inheritance came out of nowhere. My Uncle Raymond, my mother's older brother, passed away in his sleep 2 weeks ago at 89. I hadn't seen Raymond in over 20 years. We'd had a falling out over something stupid, and pride kept us apart. He never married, never had kids, lived alone in a big house in Michigan, made a fortune in real estate investments. That morning, I got a call from a lawyer named Harold Peterson in Lansing. He told me Raymond had left me everything. 3 properties, a lake house in northern Minnesota worth about $600,000, a condo in Phoenix valued at $450,000, a small commercial building in Dallas that brought in rental income, worth around $900,000, plus stocks, bonds, and cash, totaling $2.8 million. $4.8 million total. And 3 properties. I nearly dropped the phone. Harold explained the will was ironclad, already through probate. Everything just needed my signature. He'd email me the paperwork. It would take a few weeks to finalize, but it was mine. I drove home in a daze. My hands shook on the steering wheel. I kept thinking about what this meant. Financial security for the rest of my life. The ability to travel, to help Marcus get back on his feet properly, to donate to causes Sarah and I cared about, maybe even help some of my former students who were struggling. I pulled into my driveway, practically ran into the house. Marcus's car was there. Perfect. I'd tell him right away. We'd celebrate. Maybe go out to dinner at that steakhouse he liked. This was going to change everything. I came through the front door and headed for the stairs. Marcus's bedroom was on the 2nd floor, but as I reached the bottom step, I heard his voice drifting from the kitchen. He was on the phone, laughing. I paused. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but something in his tone made me stop. That's when I heard it. Clear as day. If the old man dies soon, I'll take everything anyway. Then more laughter. Yeah, I know. Just gotta be patient. Can't look too eager. The world tilted. I grabbed the railing to steady myself. My vision blurred. I stood there, frozen, as Marcus continued talking. He said something about my health, about how I was getting older, about how it was just a matter of time. I didn't hear the rest. Blood rushed in my ears. My chest felt tight. I backed away from the stairs as quietly as I could, turned, and walked to my bedroom at the end of the hall on the first floor. I closed the door softly, locked it, sat down on my bed in my jacket and shoes. That's where I stayed for 2 hours, staring at nothing. Around 8 that evening, Marcus knocked on my door. "Dad, you okay? You've been quiet." I cleared my throat. "Just tired. Think I'll turn in early." He paused. "You sure?" "I was gonna order pizza. I'm sure." "Good night, Marcus." "Good night, Dad." I heard his footsteps retreat. I sat there in the dark until midnight, my mind racing. What kind of son wishes for his father's death? What kind of person waits around like a vulture? But then another thought crept in, a darker one. What if Marcus wasn't just waiting? What if he was planning something? I didn't sleep that night. By the time dawn broke, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Marcus. Not yet. I was going to test him. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. And more importantly, I needed to know if my son was acting alone or if someone else was pulling his strings. The next morning, I came out of my bedroom at 7:30 like normal. Marcus was already in the kitchen, which surprised me. He rarely got up before 10. "Morning, Dad." He smiled, poured me a cup of coffee without me asking. "How'd you sleep?" "Fine." I took the mug, studied his face. He looked relaxed, happy even. "You're up early." "Yeah, thought I'd make us some breakfast." "Scrambled eggs sound good?" "Sure. Thanks." I sat at the kitchen table and watched him cook. He hummed along to some song on his phone, cracked eggs into a bowl, asked me if I wanted toast. The whole scene felt surreal. This was the same person who, 12 hours ago, had laughed about inheriting my things after I died. We ate breakfast together. He asked about my plans for the day, told me he might go to the gym later, maybe look at some job listings. I nodded along, gave short answers, watched every movement. After he left the kitchen, I pulled out my phone and called Harold Peterson. "Harold, it's Bill Harrison. I need to ask you something. Can we keep this inheritance confidential for now?" There was a pause. "Confidential? Bill, it's yours. You can do whatever you want." "But why?" "Personal reasons. Family reasons. I need some time before I claim anything or let anyone know about it." Harold was quiet for a moment. "All right. That's unusual, but I can hold off on filing the final paperwork for a bit. Everything's secure. Just let me know when you're ready to proceed." "Thank you." I hung up and sat back. Step 1, complete. Now I needed information. Over the next few days, I became a detective in my own home. I watched Marcus carefully. He made several phone calls, always stepping outside or going to his room. He'd been doing that for weeks, I realized. I just hadn't paid attention before. On the third day, Marcus left the house to go to the gym, or so he said. As soon as his car pulled out of the driveway, I went upstairs to his room. I'm not proud of this. I'd never invaded my son's privacy before, but I needed to know the truth. His room was messy. Clothes on the floor, empty soda cans on the nightstand. I opened his desk drawer, found a stack of credit card statements. My stomach dropped as I flipped through them. Marcus was $23,000 in debt. Cash advances, online purchases, restaurant charges. He'd maxed out 3 cards. I kept searching. In a folder tucked under some magazines, I found printed emails. The name at the top made me pause. Angela Frost, financial consultant. I read through them. My hands started shaking again. Angela had been emailing Marcus for over a month. The messages were professional at first, talking about estate planning and inheritance tax strategies. But the more recent ones were different. One email, dated 3 weeks ago, read, "Once you receive the inheritance, we can restructure everything to maximize your assets and minimize tax exposure. My consulting fee will be 20% of the total estate value, as we discussed. I'll have the contracts ready." 20% of an inheritance Marcus didn't even have yet. An inheritance he thought was coming from me. I took pictures of everything with my phone, put the papers back exactly as I'd found them. went back downstairs. That evening, I looked up Angela Frost online. Her website was sleek but vague. Wealth management consultant, estate planning specialist. But when I dug deeper, I found reviews on consumer complaint sites. Multiple people saying she'd taken huge fees for minimal work. One review claimed she specifically targeted people expecting inheritances, promising tax savings that never materialized. My son wasn't just waiting for me to die. He'd already hired someone to help him spend money he thought he'd inherit from me. The next day, something else happened. My doctor's office called. "Mr. Harrison, this is Jenny from Dr. Patel's office. We have you scheduled for a comprehensive health evaluation next Tuesday at 2. Your son Marcus called and set it up. He seemed very concerned about some symptoms you've been having." I gripped the phone tighter. "Symptoms? What symptoms?" He mentioned cognitive decline and some heart issues. "We wanted to make sure we did a full workup. I don't have heart issues. And there's nothing wrong with my cognition." Jenny sounded confused. "Oh, well," Marcus seemed quite worried. "Should I cancel the appointment?" "No, I'll keep it." But I made the decision right then. I'd go to that appointment and make sure my medical records showed exactly what they should, that I was healthy, sharp, and fully competent. "Thank you, Jenny." I hung up and sat very still. This was worse than I thought. Marcus wasn't just waiting for me to die naturally. He was building a case to have me declared incompetent. If he could get doctors to document cognitive decline or serious health problems, he could petition for guardianship, control my finances, maybe even put me in a nursing home. My own son was plotting to take away my freedom. The anger came in waves. Some moments, I felt cold and calculating. Other moments, I wanted to throw Marcus out of the house immediately. But I held myself together. I needed more information. I needed to know the full extent of his plan. That night at dinner, I decided to test something. I made small mistakes on purpose. Asked Marcus what day it was, even though I knew. Forgot where I'd put my reading glasses, which were on top of my head. Asked him the same question twice about his day. His reaction told me everything. His eyes lit up each time. Not with concern, with satisfaction. He even pulled out his phone at one point and typed something. Probably notes. Documentation of my supposed decline. After dinner, he brought up my will. "Dad, I've been thinking. You know, at your age, it's really important to have everything in order. Have you updated your will recently?" I looked at him across the table. "It's fine. But when was the last time you reviewed it? A lot can change. You want to make sure everything's clear, right? No confusion later." Later. After I was dead, he meant. "I'll think about it," he pressed on. "I actually know a really good elder law attorney." Angela recommended her. "We should set up a consultation. And maybe you should sign a power of attorney too, just in case something happens and you can't make decisions. I could handle things for you." There it was. Power of attorney. Control over my finances, my medical decisions, everything. "I'm not ready for that yet, Marcus." His jaw tightened slightly, but he forced a smile. "Okay, Dad. Just want to make sure you're protected." Protected. Right. The next day, I called my own attorney. Not Harold Peterson, but someone else. A woman named Janet Rivera who'd handled Sarah's estate and our wills years ago. I drove to her office and explained everything. Played her the recording I'd made on my phone of Marcus talking about the inheritance. Showed her the photos of the emails with Angela Frost. Told her about the doctor's appointment. Janet listened, her expression growing darker. "Bill, this is serious. If he's trying to establish incompetence, he could petition the court. Even if it fails, it would be expensive and humiliating for you. What can I do?" She leaned forward. "First, go to that doctor's appointment. Get a full evaluation showing you're completely competent. Second, we need to document everything. Third, you need to decide what you want to do about Marcus. I want to protect myself, and I want to know the full truth before I make any decisions." Janet nodded. "Give me a few days. I'll do some digging on this Angela Frost. Meanwhile, keep records of everything." I left her office feeling slightly more in control. But that night, curiosity got the better of me. Marcus had gone out to meet a friend, or so he claimed. I went to his room again. This time, I looked at his laptop. The password was easy. Sarah 1991. My late wife's name and birth year. Part of me wanted to cry at that. He still used her name, still remembered her. But then I saw what was on the screen and the sadness turned to ice. I found messages between Marcus and Angela Frost. Recent ones. Angela, the sooner he's in a facility, the sooner you have full control. Keep documenting his decline. Make sure family and friends see it too. Marcus, I'm working on it. He's starting to slip, forgetting things, asking the same questions. Give me 2 months, and I'll have enough for the petition. Angela, perfect. Once you have guardianship, we can move the assets into the trust structure we discussed. You'll pay fewer taxes and I can manage everything for my fee. Marcus, what if he fights it? Angela, at his age, with documented decline, the court will side with you, especially if you're the only family he has. I felt sick. I scrolled further, found more. Marcus had been researching memory care facilities. He'd looked up costs, visiting hours, policies. He'd even bookmarked 3 places within 50 miles. There were searches in his browser history too. How long does Alzheimer's take to progress? Can a family member force someone into assisted living? What evidence do you need for guardianship? I took more pictures, sent them to Janet. Then I cleared my tracks and closed the laptop. But I found something else. Bank statements showing Marcus had been stealing from me. Small amounts at first. $50 here, $100 there. Forged checks using my checkbook. Over 6 months, he'd taken about $3,000. Not enough for me to notice immediately, but enough to fund his lifestyle while unemployed. I sat on his bed, surrounded by the evidence of my son's betrayal, and felt a grief so deep I couldn't breathe. This was the boy I'd raised, the child Sarah and I had loved and nurtured, the young man I'd supported through every failure and struggle, and he was planning to lock me away and steal everything I had. 2 days later, a letter arrived. It was forwarded from Harold Peterson's office in Michigan. The return address was from a hospice facility where Uncle Raymond had spent his final weeks. I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter on yellowed paper. My uncle's shaky handwriting covered 3 pages. Dear Bill, it began. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I want you to know why I left everything to you. I read on, tears blurring the words. Raymond wrote about his own children, who'd abandoned him when his money ran out during a bad investment period. They only came back around when he rebuilt his fortune. And by then, he saw them for what they were. He wrote about loneliness, about regret, about the difference between people who love you and people who love what you have. Then he wrote something that hit me like a punch. Family isn't about blood, Bill. It's about character. I watched you from afar over the years, heard about how you cared for Sarah when she was sick, how you taught for nearly 40 years, shaping young minds for barely enough pay, how you stayed decent and kind despite life's hardships. That's why you get everything. I hope you have someone worthy to leave this to when your time comes. Choose wisely, Bill. Don't let money corrupt those you love, and if it already has, be strong enough to walk away. I folded the letter carefully and put it in my desk drawer, under lock and key. Uncle Raymond had given me permission, in a way. Permission to make the hard choice I knew was coming. That night, I made my decision. I was done investigating. I had everything I needed. It was time to act. 2 weeks later, I told Marcus I had big news and wanted to have a family meeting. His eyes went wide with what I recognize now as greed poorly disguised as concern. Family meeting? Is everything okay, Dad? Everything's fine. Better than fine, actually. I just want to gather everyone together. I've invited your Uncle Thomas to drive up from Cincinnati, and I asked Diane if she'd come too. Marcus's face flickered with confusion. Diane? My ex-wife? She's still family to me. I stayed close with her after your divorce. You know that. He shifted uncomfortably. Okay, what's this about? You'll find out when everyone's here. Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock. The next few days, Marcus was on edge. He kept trying to get me to tell him what was going on. I just smiled and said it was a surprise. A good surprise. Saturday came. Thomas arrived first, my younger brother, 62 years old and sharp as ever. I'd filled him in on everything over the phone. He was furious on my behalf. ready to throw Marcus out himself. But I asked him to stay calm and just be there as a witness. Diane came next. She was 58, kind-faced, her hair gray now, but her eyes still warm. She hugged me at the door. "Bill, what's going on? Your call sounded serious." "It is. Thank you for coming." Marcus came downstairs, saw Diane. His expression went tight. "Hey." "Hello, Marcus." The tension was immediate. They hadn't spoken in over a year. Everyone settled in the living room. I had my laptop set up on the coffee table. Janet Rivera already connected via video call. When Marcus saw the lawyer on screen, his face went pale. "Dad, what is this?" I sat down in my armchair. Everyone else found seats. Marcus perched on the edge of the couch, looking like he wanted to bolt. I took a breath. 2 months ago, my Uncle Raymond passed away in Michigan. Most of you didn't know him. We'd been estranged for years, but he left me something in his will. Marcus leaned forward slightly. He left me $4.8 million and 3 properties. A lake house in Minnesota, a condo in Phoenix, and a commercial building in Dallas. The room went silent. Marcus's eyes went huge. His mouth opened. Then he arranged his face into an expression of shock and joy. "Dad, that's incredible. Oh my God, I'm so happy for you. For us. This is amazing." I watched him, studied every micro-expression, the greed, the calculation, the false enthusiasm. "I was going to tell you the night I found out, Marcus. I was so excited. I came home and headed for the stairs to your room. I was going to share everything with you. I was going to tell you that we were set for life, that you didn't have to worry anymore." His smile wavered slightly. "But I heard you on the phone in the kitchen. Do you remember that night? About 2 months ago? You were talking to someone, laughing." Marcus went very still. "I heard what you said." I pulled out my phone, pressed play on the recording I'd saved. Marcus's voice filled the room, tinny through the phone speaker but clear. "If the old man dies soon, I'll take everything anyway." "Yeah, I know. Just gotta be patient. Can't look too eager." The color drained from Marcus's face. Diane gasped. Thomas closed his eyes. I stopped the recording. "That's what I heard, Marcus. Standing at the bottom of the stairs, about to share the best news of my life with you. That's what my son said about me." Marcus stood up. "Dad, wait. I was joking. It was a stupid joke with a friend. I didn't mean anything." I opened my laptop, turned it so everyone could see the screen. I'd prepared a presentation, photos of the emails with Angela Frost, bank records showing the forged checks, the messages about putting me in a facility. I went through each piece of evidence calmly. Marcus tried to interrupt several times. I held up my hand. "I know about Angela Frost and her 20% consulting fee. I know you're $23,000 in debt. I know you scheduled a doctor's appointment, claiming I had cognitive decline and heart problems, neither of which I have. I know you researched memory care facilities. I know you stole $3,000 from me using forged checks. I know you planned to have me declared incompetent so you could control my assets." Marcus was shaking. "This is insane. You're spying on me? You went through my private things? You were planning to lock me in a nursing home and steal my life." "I didn't. I wasn't going to actually do it. I was just exploring options. Angela said it was normal estate planning." Thomas stood up, his voice hard. "Estate planning while your father is still alive and healthy? Planning to put him in a facility against his will? That's not estate planning, Marcus. That's elder abuse." Marcus turned on Thomas. "You don't know anything about our relationship." Diane spoke up then, her voice quiet but firm. "I know about your relationship, Marcus." Everyone looked at her. She stood, facing Marcus directly. "I know because you did the same thing to me. During our marriage, you stole money from my accounts, lied about debts, tried to isolate me from my family. When I inherited $15,000 from my grandmother, you spent it in 3 months without asking me. When I confronted you, you told me I was being paranoid and controlling. You manipulated me until I didn't trust my own judgment anymore. It took me 2 years to get the courage to leave you." Tears ran down her face. "I tried to warn Bill after you moved back in, but I didn't have proof. I just had my experience. I'm so glad he figured it out before you destroyed him too." Marcus's face twisted. You're both crazy. This is a setup. You're trying to turn everyone against me. I stood up. No one's turning anyone against you, Marcus. You did this yourself. Every choice, every lie, every manipulation. That was all you. He looked at me with something like desperation. Dad, please. I made mistakes. I've been stressed and desperate and stupid. But I'm your son. You can't just throw me away. My heart broke all over again. But I kept my voice steady. You're right. You are my son. And I loved you more than anything in this world except your mother. I would have given you everything. Not because you asked, but because that's what love does. If you'd come to me and said you were in debt, struggling, needed help, I would have helped you. If you'd told me the truth about anything, we could have worked through it together. I paused, making sure he heard every word. But you didn't want my help. You wanted my death. You wanted me out of the way so you could take what you thought was yours. That's not love, Marcus. That's not even basic human decency. Janet spoke from the laptop screen. Mr. Harrison, would you like me to explain the legal documents we've prepared? I nodded. Please. Janet outlined everything. I'd filed paperwork to remove Marcus from my will entirely. Every asset would go to charity, to Thomas, to scholarship funds in Sarah's name, and to other family members who'd shown me genuine love over the years. Marcus would inherit nothing. Additionally, I'd filed a police report about the forged checks. Janet had advised me I could press charges for fraud and theft. I hadn't decided yet, and Marcus had 30 days to move out of my house. If he refused, I'd begin eviction proceedings. Marcus stood frozen through all of it. Then he exploded. You can't do this. I'll fight you. I'll sue. You're a vindictive old man who can't stand that I saw through you. Saw through me? I stared at him. What exactly did you see, Marcus? That you're selfish. You taught school for 40 years and barely made anything. Mom died because you couldn't afford better treatment. You've always been a failure, and now you finally have money, and you're punishing me for telling the truth. The room went dead, silent. Even Marcus seemed to realize he'd gone too far. Thomas moved toward him. Diane covered her mouth. Janet's face on the screen was stone. I felt something inside me break cleanly in half. It wasn't anger anymore. It was clarity. Get out of my house. Marcus blinked. What? Get out. Right now. Pack a bag and leave. You have 30 days to get the rest of your things, but I want you out of here today. Dad, come on, I didn't mean that. Yes, you did. And you know what? You're wrong about almost everything. But you're right about one thing. I chose teaching over money. I chose a life of service over wealth. Your mother and I made that choice together, and we were happy. And when she got sick, I spent every dollar I had trying to save her. It wasn't enough, but it was love. Real love. The kind you don't understand. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out. Thomas stood. I'll make sure he leaves. Marcus looked around the room, maybe hoping for an ally. Found none. He grabbed his jacket from the couch, stopped at the door in front of me. You're going to regret this. When you're old and alone and dying in some hospital, you'll wish you had family. I met his eyes. I have family, my brother, my friends, people who actually care about me. You're not family, Marcus. You're just someone who shares my DNA. He left. Thomas followed him out to make sure he actually went. I heard a car start and drive away. Then I sat down in my chair and put my face in my hands. Diane sat beside me, put her hand on my shoulder. I'm so sorry, Bill. Janet disconnected from the video call quietly. The room felt enormous and empty, and for the first time in 2 months, I let myself cry. The first week after Marcus left was the hardest. He called my phone 37 times. I didn't answer. He sent texts, ranging from apologetic to furious to desperate. I didn't respond. He sent a long email at 3 a.m, claiming he was drunk and suicidal, and it was all my fault. I forwarded it to Janet and then blocked his email address. Thomas stayed with me for a few days. We didn't talk much about Marcus. Instead, we talked about our childhood, about our parents, about Sarah. We watched old movies and ate takeout and sat in comfortable silence. Having him there kept me from sinking too deep into grief. On day 4, My phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I answered. "Mr. Harrison, this is Angela Frost. I think we need to talk." Her voice was sharp, professional, with an edge of threat underneath. "We have nothing to discuss, Miss Frost." "Actually, we do. Marcus owes me $15,000 in consulting fees. Fees he promised from his inheritance. An inheritance you're now withholding out of spite." I sat up straighter. "I'm not withholding anything, Miss Frost. Marcus was never entitled to an inheritance from me. And any fees you arranged with him are between you and him. You deliberately deceived him. He told me about the money you inherited. You have a moral obligation to help your son." "My moral obligation?" I felt anger rise hot in my chest. "You coached my son on how to have me declared incompetent. You helped him plan to put me in a nursing home against my will. You're a predator who targets vulnerable people expecting inheritances and bleeds them dry. Don't talk to me about moral obligations." There was a long pause. Then her voice changed. Drop the professional veneer. "Look, I didn't know he was lying to me. He told me you were in cognitive decline, that you needed care, that he was trying to protect you, and you believed him without ever meeting me or seeing any medical records?" Silence. "Here's what I think, Miss Frost. I think you've done this before. I think you find people expecting money and convince them to sign contracts for services they don't need. I think you're very good at skirting the edge of legality. But if you contact me again, or if you contact Marcus and encourage him to harass me, I'll forward all of our evidence to the State Attorney General's office. There are consumer protection laws about fraudulent financial consulting. I'm sure they'd be interested in your business practices." Another pause. Then she hung up. Janet called me an hour later. "Angela Frost just sent a letter to my office. She's dropping all claims against Marcus and terminating their contract. She wants nothing more to do with this situation." I smiled for the first time in days. Good. Over the next 2 weeks, I started to rebuild. I met with Harold Peterson and signed all the final paperwork for Uncle Raymond's estate. The money and properties were officially mine. I worked with Janet to set up the charitable foundation in Sarah's name. We endowed a scholarship fund for students at Lincoln High School who wanted to become teachers, $5,000 per year for 4 students. It would run in perpetuity. I donated the Phoenix condo to a veterans housing nonprofit. The building alone was worth enough to house 3 families for years. The director called me personally to thank me. Hearing the gratitude in his voice made me feel something I hadn't felt in months. Purpose. I kept the lake house and the commercial building. The building's rental income would supplement my pension nicely. The lake house would be a family place. Thomas and I planned to take his kids there next summer. Diane came by for coffee one afternoon. We sat on my back porch, watching birds at the feeder Sarah had put up years ago. "How are you doing?" she asked. "Better. Some days. Other days I just feel sad." She nodded. "When I left Marcus, I felt sad for a year. Not because I missed him, but because I missed who I thought he was. That's exactly it. I keep mourning the son I thought I had, the one who never really existed. He existed when he was younger, Bill. You raised a good kid. I saw the photos, heard the stories. Something changed in him. Maybe it was the divorce. Maybe losing his job. Maybe just accumulated bitterness. But the boy you raised was real. It's not your fault he chose to become someone else." Her words helped more than she knew. She told me about her life now. She'd started a small business doing bookkeeping for local companies. She'd gone back to school and gotten certified. She was dating someone, a widower she'd met at church. She'd rebuilt her life after Marcus destroyed it. "It took time," she said, "but I'm happier now than I ever was with him. You will be too." 3 weeks after the confrontation, something arrived in the mail. A letter, handwritten, no return address. I almost threw it away, but something made me open it. It was from Marcus. 6 pages, front and back. "Dad," it began. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if you'll read this, but I need to write it anyway." I read the whole thing standing in my kitchen. Marcus wrote about everything. The resentment he'd felt growing up, always feeling like he lived in Sarah's shadow, like I loved her more than him. The pressure he'd felt to succeed, and how each failure made him feel more worthless. The shame of his divorce, his job loss, his debts, He wrote about how money became an obsession, how he convinced himself that if he just had enough money, he'd feel valuable again, how he justified every bad decision by telling himself he deserved it, that life owed him something. He wrote about Angela Frost, how she'd convinced him I was holding him back, that I was the problem, how she made everything sound reasonable and smart. And then he wrote, "But none of that excuses what I did. I wanted you dead, Dad. I actually sat around wishing my own father would die so I could have money. I don't know what kind of person that makes me, but it's not someone I want to be anymore." He wrote about hitting rock bottom, losing his car to repossession, getting evicted from the apartment he'd moved into, Angela suing him for the money he owed her. He was living on a friend's couch, working at a gas station for minimum wage. "I don't expect anything from you," he wrote near the end. "I don't deserve your forgiveness or your help or another chance. I just needed you to know that I finally see what I was. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He signed it simply, Marcus. I read the letter 3 times. Then I called Thomas. They sent me a letter. What'd it say? I summarized it. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. "Do you believe him?" "I don't know. Maybe. Part of me wants to. Part of me thinks it's just another manipulation." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to think about it." I put the letter in my desk drawer, but I didn't throw it away. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I answered warily. "Mr. Harrison? This is Dr. Susan Chen from Riverside Recovery Center. I'm calling about your son, Marcus." My heart jumped. "Is he okay?" "He's fine. He checked himself into our facility 3 days ago for treatment. He listed you as his emergency contact. I'm calling to inform you and to ask if you'd be willing to participate in family therapy sessions as part of his program." "What kind of treatment?" "Gambling addiction. He told us he's been struggling with it for years." "Gambling?" "Yes. He's also dealing with depression and anxiety. He'll be here for 90 days minimum. We have a very good success rate, but family support significantly improves outcomes." I sat down heavily. I'll need to think about it." "Of course. Here's my direct number if you have questions." She gave me the information. I hung up and sat staring at nothing. Gambling. That explained the debts, the desperation, the lies. It didn't excuse anything, but it explained it. I called the center back the next day. Spoke with Dr. Chen for 40 minutes. She explained Marcus's treatment plan. He'd admitted everything to them. The gambling started in college, small at first. Sports betting, poker games. It got worse after his divorce. Online casinos, racetrack betting, anything that gave him that rush. He'd hidden it from everyone, covered losses with credit cards, eventually turned to stealing. The addiction had twisted his thinking until getting money, any money, by any means, became the only thing that mattered. "Is he serious about recovery?" I asked. "He's doing the work," Dr. Chen said, "but it's only been 3 days. Time will tell." The fact that he checked himself in, that he's paying for this himself with money from his minimum wage job, those are good signs. But addiction is complicated. Recovery isn't linear. If I came to a family session, would it help him? It might. But Mr. Harrison, make sure it's what you want, not what you think you should do. Your healing matters too. I'll think about it. And I did. For days, I thought about nothing else. 3 months passed. Summer turned to fall. The leaves on the trees in my yard went from green to brilliant orange and red. I settled into a new routine. I volunteered at Lincoln High School twice a week, mentoring students interested in history and teaching. The scholarship fund I'd established had already helped 5 students. Seeing their faces when they got the award, seeing their futures open up, filled something in me that had been empty. Thomas and I took a weekend trip to the lake house in Minnesota. The property was beautiful, right on the water, surrounded by pine trees. Thomas's 2 kids, my nephew and niece, came with us. We fished, played board games, sat around a fire pit at night. For the first time in months, I felt peaceful. I heard about Marcus through mutual acquaintances. He'd completed the 90-day program at Riverside Recovery. He was living in a small apartment, working full-time at a grocery store. He'd been promoted to assistant manager. He attended Gamblers Anonymous meetings 3 times a week. He'd paid Angela Frost back every dollar he owed her through a payment plan. I didn't reach out. He didn't contact me either, except for one text on my birthday. "Happy birthday, Dad. I hope you're doing well." I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. Then, on a Tuesday in October, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find a woman in her mid-50s, professionally dressed, holding a briefcase. "Mr. Harrison, I'm Patricia Connolly. I'm a regional coordinator for the Veterans Housing Program you donated to. Do you have a few minutes?" I invited her in. We sat in my living room. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder of photos. "I wanted to show you what your donation did. This is the Garcia family. Father served 2 tours in Afghanistan, came home with PTSD, struggled to find work. They were living in their car with 2 kids. Your condo is housing them now. The father's in therapy, has a job. The kids are back in school." She showed me more photos, more families, more lives changed. "We can house 3 families in that condo, rotating as they get back on their feet. You've impacted dozens of lives, Mr. Harrison. I wanted you to see that." I looked at the photos of children smiling, of families sitting together at a dinner table. My eyes got wet. "Thank you for showing me this." "No, thank you. What you did was extraordinary." After she left, I sat with those photos for a long time. Sarah would have loved this. She always said the best use of money was helping people who needed it most. That night, Diane called. She did that sometimes now. We'd developed a genuine friendship, talking every week or 2. "How are you, Bill?" I told her about Patricia's visit, about the families. "That's wonderful. You should be proud." "I am. I just wish Sarah could see it." "I think she can." Diane's voice was soft. "I think she'd be very proud of you. For all of it. For standing up to Marcus. For protecting yourself. For using the money the way you are." We talked for an hour. About life. About healing. About moving forward. Before we hung up, she said something that stuck with me. "You know, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean letting someone hurt you again. Sometimes it just means releasing the anger so you can live in peace." I thought about that a lot over the next few weeks. In early November, I made a decision. I called Riverside Recovery and asked for Dr. Chen. "I'd like to attend a family session with Marcus. If he still wants me to." She sounded pleased. "He does. Let me coordinate with him and I'll call you back with a date." We met the following week. At a therapy office, neutral ground. Marcus was already there when I arrived, sitting in the waiting room. He stood when he saw me. He'd lost weight, looked tired, but his eyes were clearer than I'd seen them in years. "Dad, Marcus." We sat down. Dr. Chen joined us. For the first hour, she facilitated, asked questions, let Marcus talk about his addiction, his treatment, what he'd learned. He was honest in a way I'd never heard from him before. Talked about the shame, the lies, how the gambling made him feel powerful when everything else made him feel worthless. Then it was my turn. I talked about the betrayal, the hurt, how I'd grieved losing him. "I thought I knew you," I said. "Turns out I didn't. I don't know if I ever really did." Marcus cried. "I'm sorry, Dad. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am so sorry." Dr. Chen asked me what I needed from Marcus. "Honesty," I said. "If we ever have any kind of relationship again, it has to be built on complete honesty. No more lies, even small ones. I can't do this if I can't trust you." Marcus nodded. "I understand, and I don't expect you to trust me right away. I have to earn it back, if I even can." We talked for 2 hours. It was hard, painful, but it was real. At the end, Dr. Chen asked if I'd be willing to meet again. I looked at Marcus. "If you stay in treatment, if you stay honest, then yes." Over the next 6 months, we met once a month. Sometimes with Dr. Chen, sometimes just the 2 of us for coffee. Marcus stayed clean from gambling, kept working, kept going to meetings. He moved into a better apartment, started taking online classes in accounting. He never asked me for money, never brought up the inheritance, talked about his life in concrete, honest terms. Slowly, carefully, I started to see a different person emerging, or maybe the same person he'd been before the addiction consumed him. I wasn't sure, but I watched and I listened. One day, almost a year after our confrontation, we were having coffee at a diner. Marcus mentioned he'd been accepted into a community college program. That's great, Marcus. What's the tuition? About $4,000 per semester. I'm taking 2 classes to start, so $2,000. I've saved half. Should have the rest in 3 months. I stirred my coffee, thought about everything, about consequences and redemption, about what it meant to be a father. I'll pay half, I said. Marcus looked up sharply. What? Half the tuition. You earn the other half. And you maintain your recovery. If you relapse, the deal's off. Dad, I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. But there are conditions. You stay in therapy. You stay in GA. You keep working. You pass your classes. You stay honest with me about everything. Can you do that? Tears ran down his face. Yes, I promise. Thank you. We shook hands across the table. It wasn't forgiveness. Not completely. But it was a start. 2 years after I heard those words in the kitchen, my life looks nothing like I imagined it would. I'm sitting on the porch of the lake house in Minnesota. It's a Saturday in June. The water is calm, reflecting the sky like glass. Thomas and his family are inside making dinner. Diane is here too. We've been dating for 6 months now. Nothing serious yet. Just companionship and kindness and the comfortable intimacy of 2 people who've both survived storms. The scholarship fund in Sarah's name has helped 23 students so far. 3 of them are now teachers themselves. One sent me a photo last month of her first classroom, thanking me for making her dream possible. The commercial building in Dallas provides steady income. I've lived comfortably, traveled a little, donated a lot. Money, I've learned, is just a tool. It amplifies who you already are. It gave Marcus's greed room to grow, but it also gave me the ability to help people in ways I never could before. And Marcus, he's coming to the lake house tomorrow. It'll be the first time he's been included in a family gathering since I kicked him out. He graduated from community college last month with a degree in accounting. He's been working at a firm for 6 months now. Entry level, but honest work. He's been clean from gambling for 2 years and 3 months. We talk once a week now. Our relationship is different. There's a formality to it. Boundaries that weren't there before. I don't fully trust him yet. Maybe I never will completely. But I see him trying. I see him becoming someone who takes responsibility, who faces consequences, who does the work of being a better person. Last week, he sent me a text. It said, 1 year clean today. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself. I replied, proud of you. Keep going. That night, sitting on this porch, I think about Uncle Raymond's letter, about choosing wisely, about not letting money corrupt those you love. I think I made the right choice, not the easy one. The easy thing would have been to either cut Marcus off forever or to immediately forgive and forget. I did neither. I held him accountable, made him face real consequences. But I also left the door open for him to prove he could change. And when he did the work, really did it, I met him halfway. Thomas comes out onto the porch with 2 beers, hands me one, sits down in the chair next to me. You okay? Yeah. Just thinking. About Marcus. Among other things. He's doing good, Bill. Real good. I wasn't sure at first, but he's proven himself. I nod. He has. You saved his life, you know. If you'd just given him the money, let him keep going the way he was, he'd be dead or in jail by now. Maybe. Or maybe he'd have figured it out on his own eventually. Thomas shakes his head. No. He needed to hit bottom. You gave him that. It was the hardest, most loving thing you could have done. We sit in silence, drinking our beers, watching the sun start to set over the water. Inside, I hear laughter, Diane's voice, Thomas's kids, music playing, the sounds of family, real family, the kind built on love and honesty, not obligation or blood. My phone buzzes. A text from one of my former students. Mr. Harrison, I got the scholarship. I'm going to be a teacher because of you. Thank you for believing in me. I smile. Text back congratulations. This is what wealth really means. Not the money in the bank or the properties I own. It's this. People's lives changed. Second chances earned. A family rebuilt on a foundation of truth instead of lies. Tomorrow, when Marcus arrives, it'll be awkward at first. There will be moments of tension, old wounds that still ache. But there will also be healing, growth, the slow, difficult work of rebuilding something that was broken. I've learned that life doesn't give you perfect endings. It gives you honest ones. And sometimes, if you're very lucky and very brave, those honest endings become new beginnings. The greatest inheritance Uncle Raymond gave me wasn't the money. It was the test. The opportunity to see who the people around me really were. The chance to choose character over comfort. Truth over easy peace. I lost a son the night I heard those words in the kitchen. But in losing him, I found myself. I found my strength. I found my boundaries. And eventually, in the hardest possible way, I found a path to something real. Money reveals who people are. It doesn't change them. It just gives them permission to be more of what they already were. Marcus was already struggling with greed and addiction. The inheritance just brought it into the light. And once it was in the light, he had to face it. Had to choose who he wanted to be. He chose recovery, chose honesty, chose the hard work of change. And I chose to be a father who loved his son enough to let him fall, and patient enough to help him stand back up when he was ready. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky orange and pink. Diane comes out, puts her hand on my shoulder. Dinner's ready. I stand up, take one more look at the water. Tomorrow, Marcus will stand on this porch. We'll talk, we'll eat, we'll try. It won't be perfect, but it'll be real. And real, I've learned, is worth more than all the money in the world. I learned something these past 2 years that I want to share with you. Sometimes the people closest to us can betray us in ways we never imagined. And when that happens, you have 2 choices. You can let it destroy you, or you can use it to become stronger, wiser, more discerning about who deserves your trust and your love. I chose strength. I chose boundaries. And when my son finally chose change, I chose carefully measured grace. The ending isn't perfect, but it's honest, and it's mine. What would you have done in my position? When you discovered someone you loved was waiting for you to die, would you have confronted them immediately, cut them off forever, or done what I did? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. It helps others find these stories and reminds us all that we're not alone in facing family struggles and hard decisions. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more true stories about life, family, and the difficult choices we all have to make sometimes. And please share this with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who's struggling with a difficult family situation or trying to figure out how to set boundaries with people they love. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for taking this journey with me. I hope it gave you something to think about. Maybe some courage to face your own hard situations, or at least the comfort of knowing that even in our darkest moments, there's a path forward. Take care of yourselves, protect your peace, choose people who choose you, and remember that sometimes the greatest act of love is having the strength to say no until someone is ready to hear yes. Until next time.